Dear all, welcome to the class of International Economics. In the previous video, we have briefly discussed different theories of international trade, and we have also explained in detail the contribution of mercantilists to the international trade. So today we are discussing the international trade theories of classicals. It was the first international trade theory. There are different trade theory from the classicals like absolute advantage theory and comparative advantage theory. So today we are talking about absolute cost advantage theory, which was developed by Adam Smith. So as you know, these are the different trade theories. Firstly, it was started from mercantilist, then there is a classical theories of trade, then neoclassical theories of trade, modern theory, then recent development also. So in this we are discussing classical trade theories. So in the classical trade theories were based on comparative advantage. So there are different versions of comparative advantage theories. Firstly it was Adam Smith's absolute advantage theory, and secondly it was Ricardo's comparative advantage theory. Thirdly, Haberler's opportunity cost theory is also included in this in this set of international trade theories. Today in this lecture we are focusing to the first theory, that is Adam Smith's absolute advantage theory. So we want to discuss what is a theory says, and also assumptions. Finally, what is the limitations of Adam Smith's international trade theory. So the classical trade ideas, it was developed by different economists like David Hume and Adam Smith and also Ricardo. So all these people have contributed to the trade theories. But mainly, there are two theories. That is absolute advantage theory. In another words, we can say absolute cost advantage theory and also comparative cost advantage theory. This absolute cost advantage theory, it was a reaction to the mercantilist ideas. We have seen what was the ideas of mercantilists. They were protectionist, and also they were the promoters of zero-sum game. Their trade were zero-sum game, and they had made some kind of restrictions, and also they followed protectionist policy by restricting the import. They were importing only raw materials, and it was the basis of colonialism. Also we have said in the previous lecture. So ultimately Adam Smith, as you know, he is a classical economist, and he was the advocate of laissez-faire, and he was the advocate of free trade. So by overcoming the limitations of mercantilist ideas, Adam Smith has put forward or promoted free trade, and he advocated there should not be any barriers for international trade. And also it was a reaction to the mercantilist ideas, or he believed in more the trade should be expanded between the countries. So Adam Smith, as you know, he born in 1723, then he wrote his famous book in 1776. So in that book only he was developing the idea of absolute cost advantage theory. So according to Adam Smith, the basis of trade between any two countries is the absolute cost advantage which a country has in the production of a commodity compared to the cost in other countries. So mainly the trade between the happening between the countries because of the cost advantage. The cost of production in one country might be less or it might be high in some other country. So the country which has the cost advantage, they should produce that product and they should export it. This was the idea of Adam Smith. So he said that the basis of trade between any two countries is the absolute cost advantage. So you should remember that it is absolute, not relative. Absolute cost advantage a country has in the production of a commodity compared to the cost in other countries. So if there is a differences in the cost of production of two countries, there is a possibility of trade between these two countries. So there is a tendency for countries in the production and export of goods in which they have an absolute cost advantage. So if one country has an absolute cost advantage in producing any particular commodity, they will produce it and they will export it. So this will be the tendency because they have cost advantage. So the people also will be engaged in the production of that kind of commodities. Suppose that always we say the example of wheat and cloth. So one country has cost advantage in producing wheat. So they will specialize in the production of wheat and they will export it. So it also promotes the international division of labor, because the more people will be engaged in the production of wheat and they will export it. Then in another way we can also say that it is a vent for surplus. It is also the word which is used by Adam Smith. It's a vent for surplus means it is an opportunity for surplus production. Suppose that if we are utilizing for domestic purpose, suppose that we are consuming the goods, we are producing and we are consuming. So there is a chance that in some cases there might be a surplus in the production. There might be excess supply. Then what we will do with that excess supply? So here, if there is a possibility of trade, this excess supply can be exported to another country. So it is a vent or opportunity for surplus production, and if there is a surplus, it can be exported to other countries. So through the trade, it leads to the international division of labor, and it is also a vent or an opportunity for excess supply or excess surplus, excess production. So if there is a excess production, it can be exported. Then this theory is based on some of the assumptions. Most of the international trade theories are based on some assumptions. So this theory is also based on some assumptions. So the assumptions are firstly, there are only two countries, A and B, and they are producing only two goods, X and Y. This is a simplifying assumption. So only two countries and two products, X and Y. Secondly, labor is the only factor of production. We know that there are different factors of production like land, labor, capital. But here in classical theory, they have considered only labor as factor of production. Thirdly, cost of production measured in labor cost. So there is only one cost of production, that is labor. There is no any other cost like raw material cost or machinery cost. There is no any other cost. They have considered only one cost, that is labor cost. So suppose that suppose one pen is produced, So its price is determined according to the labor cost of that of that pen, which is utilized or utilized for the production. Labor cost, how much labor cost it is there. So according to that labor cost, that price of pen is decided. So this was the idea of classicals. So cost of production is measured in labor cost, and labor cost is measured in man hours. How much man hours is used for the production of a particular commodity. So if we say an example of a pen, suppose that half an hour of one labor is worked to produce a pen, then we can say that the labor cost is half an hour. So the labor cost is also measured in man hours. How many man and how many hours? If it is 2 man, 15 minutes will be enough. So the labor cost is measured in man hours. So we can go to the theory, and we can tell with one example. Here we said that the cost of production is measured in man hours. So the labor cost per unit of output is also given in this example. There are 2 countries, as we said in the assumption A and B. There are 2 commodities, X and Y. So here we are checking the cost of the labor cost per unit of output. Suppose that to produce 1 unit of X, country A should use 30 man hours to produce 1 unit of X. To produce 1 unit of Y, they should utilize 60 man hours. The same case, country B should utilize 50 man hours to produce 1 unit of X and 20 man hours to produce commodity Y. Okay, so this is the example. So in the case of X, suppose that it is a cloth. So to produce 1 unit of X or cloth, country A should utilize 30 hours. Country B should utilize 50 hours. Then which one is lesser, and whose cost is less? Country A's cost is less because they need only 30 man hours. So they have advantage in producing commodity X, that is sure. So the theory says that they should focus on the production of X. Okay. Then what about the commodity Y? To produce 1 unit of commodity Y, A needs 60 man hours. 60 hours. Then country B needs only 20 man hours. Only 20 hours is needed for country B. So in producing Y, commodity B has the cost advantage. So according to the theory says that the country A should focus or specialize in the production of commodity X, and the B should specialize in the production of Y, because these are the commodities which has less cost of production in that country. So country A will focus in the production of X, and country B will focus in the production of Y. Then they will export it, and they will exchange each other. Then both country can gain. So this is the idea of Adam Smith. This is based on absolute cost advantage. So if one country has absolute cost advantage in producing one commodity, they should focus on that and they should specialize in that. So this cost or the man hours also we can denote in the in a equation like if A1 means 30 and 50 is A2. So A1 divided by A2 is less than 1. It means that 30 divided by 50 is less than 1. Then B1 divided by B2 should be greater than 1 to hold this theory true. If A1 divided by A2 is less than 1, B1 divided by B2 should be greater than 1 to hold this theory true. Otherwise this theory won't hold true. It means that one country should have advantage in either of these commodities. That's it. One country should have absolute cost advantage in one product, and another country should have absolute cost advantage in another product. Then only there is a possibility of trade. Otherwise it is not possible. Okay. So what is a gain from trade? How the country can gain? What about the mercantilist? What mercantilist has said? Mercantilist has said that there is a possibility of zero sum game. There is not any possibility of positive sum game. Because in the mercantilist idea, one country can gain at the cost of others or at the loss of others. We have also said the example. If I am gaining $10, it will be at the cost of others. But here, in the classical theory of Adam Smith, he said that there is a possibility of positive sum gain. Positive sum gain. Because both the parties can gain. It is not at the cost of some other countries. So how, what is a possibility of, there are two possibility of gain here. One is increase in the aggregate supply of both goods. We have seen that the cost of production of one commodity is less in one country and the cost of production of another commodity is less in another country. So each country is specializing in different products. One country in X and another country in Y. So they can produce more and they can exchange each other. So the cost of production is less. So with the available limited labor force, they can produce more and they can exchange each other. That's why there is a possibility of increase in aggregate supply of both goods. This is the one gain from the trade, and both the countries can gain through this. Secondly, a low price for both goods because of the lower cost. Each country has specialization in one particular commodity, so the cost of production for that commodity will be less, and there will be high division of labor also, so the cost will be less. Automatically the price also will be less because the external barter rate will be less. Okay, so one country can export and they can import another commodity, so the price also will be normally less. So these two are the major gain from the trade. So both the countries can gain through this way. But still there are some limitations for this theory. Firstly, trade will be gainful only if there is an absolute advantage. Adam Smith did not talk about comparative advantage. He had talked about absolute advantage. So one country should have absolute advantage in producing one commodity, and another country should have advantage in some other product. Then only the trade is possible. It does not talk about the situation of disadvantage in both goods. If one country has disadvantage in producing both the goods, then what will be the situation? He didn't talk about it. Secondly, it is based on labor theory of value. So value can be measured in different terms. Mainly all the classicals and also Marxian ideology is based on a labor theory of value. The value of a commodity is based on the labor content of that commodity. Suppose if we want to produce one pen, how much labor or how much man hours of a labor is utilized to produce that commodity or to produce that pen. So the cost of that, the value of that pen is judged, or it is based on that labor cost. So this is another limitation of this theory. Then finally, this theory did not take into consideration there are some other factors like factor endowments, transportation cost, and also there are different factors which determine how the trade is happening and what is a possibility of trade. But he didn't consider, or the classicals did not consider any of these factors, but they did consider only one factor, that is cost advantage. That also, if you are talking in Adam Smith's term, it is absolute cost advantage term. Okay, so these are the limitations of Adam Smith's absolute advantage theory, or we can say absolute cost advantage theory. So ultimately there is some kind of improvement from the mercantilist idea, because classicals have talked, or the Adam Smith have talked about there is about the possibility of mutual gain, but still there are some limitations also. So but after that, Ricardo has modified this theory by taking into consideration of relative cost or the comparative cost, that we will be discussing in the coming videos. Thank you for watching me. I hope you have enjoyed this class. Thank you very much.